drop everything. Stop scrolling. Because what is happening right now in Dunedin, Florida with the Toronto Blue Jays is the kind of story that nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, had on their 2026 bingo card. There is a man in a Blue Jays uniform who, not too long ago, admitted he thought seriously about walking away from baseball forever. A man who had everything, the contract, the talent, the hype, and watched it all crumble in slow motion through 5 straight years of injuries, setbacks, and heartbreak. And now? Now he is absolutely shredding baseball in spring training, making veteran guys nervous, and forcing the front office of the reigning American League champions to have a conversation they never expected to have this early. His name is Eloy Jimenez, and folks, if you are sleeping on this story, you need to wake up right now. Hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed, and let's get into it, because this is one of the wildest redemption stories in recent Blue Jays memory, and it is unfolding in real time. Let's start from the very beginning, because to understand just how remarkable what Eloy Jimenez is doing this spring truly is, you need to understand where this man has been. We are talking about a player who was hyped to the absolute stratosphere before he ever played a single major league game. Jimenez was considered the top international free agent signing of 2013 when the Chicago Cubs inked him for $2.8 million as a teenager out of the Dominican Republic. MLB scouts called him a five-tool player. They raved about his intelligence, his gap-to-gap power, his raw physical gifts. The Cubs developed him through their system for years, and then, in one of the most debated trades of that decade, shipped him to the Chicago White Sox in the deal that brought Jose Quintana to Chicago. White Sox fans were furious at first. Then Eloy showed up. In 2019, at just 22 years old, Jimenez hit 31 home runs in 122 games. He was a menace. He was raw power in human form. He placed fourth in Rookie of the Year voting, and every scout and analyst in baseball was saying the same thing. This kid is going to be a 40-home run guy within 2 or 3 years. In 2020, the COVID-shortened season, he won a Silver Slugger Award. He signed a contract extension worth up to $75 million before ever playing a full year in the big leagues. At the time, the richest deal ever for a player at that stage of his career. The sky was the limit. And then the injuries came. Oh, the injuries came. A ruptured left pectoral tendon in spring training 2021. Hamstring troubles. Ankle problems. Oblique strains. Adductor tears. One thing after another, year after year, and every single time he came back and showed flashes of that elite talent, something else broke. He went from being the future cornerstone of a franchise to being a cautionary tale about prospect hype and injury luck. By 2024, he was splitting time between the White Sox and the Baltimore Orioles, posting a slash line that would make a AAA hitter wince. He spent the 2025 season bouncing between AAA affiliates, the Rays system, the Orioles system, and eventually landing in Buffalo with the Blue Jays organization. And at some point during all of it, he looked in the mirror and thought about whether any of this was still worth it. He said it himself. I was in a battle with my head because of the injuries. It was like, I need to be healthy first, then try to prove myself. But it was really hard. That is a man at a crossroads. That is a man who had been one of the most celebrated prospects in baseball just 5 or 6 years earlier, and now he was questioning whether he even belonged in the game anymore. So how did we get from that dark place to what we are watching right now in Dunedin? It starts with a decision Jimenez made in the Dominican Republic this past winter. After hitting free agency, he went back home and went to work in the Dominican Winter League, and what he did there turned heads all the way up to Toronto's front office. He slashed an absolutely ridiculous .426 slugging percentage, hit 5 home runs in 36 games, racked up 12 extra base hits, and walked away with the round-robin MVP award. The Blue Jays kept tabs on him throughout the winter because they believed, even when few others did, that there was still something special left inside that bat. They watched, they evaluated, they stayed in contact with his camp, and then last month they signed him to a minor league deal with a spring training invite. What happened when he showed up to camp? John Schneider, the manager of the reigning American League champions, took one look at him and said that the swing looked very reminiscent of his early White Sox days. Schneider went further, saying that Jimenez appeared to be the healthiest he had been in many years and arrived in tremendous physical shape. And the StatCast numbers have backed that assessment up in a way that is almost hard to believe. In just 11 spring training games, Jimenez has posted 9 hits, 1 home run, 3 doubles, 2 RBIs, a batting average of .321, and an OPS hovering around .900. Those are not spring training numbers. Those are legitimate, regular season, middle-of-the-order numbers. And the quality of contact? That is what is really turning heads. Look at the exit velocity data and you will count roughly 9 balls hit at over 100 miles per hour in a very small window of time. 9 balls over 100 miles per hour. That is not a fluke. That is not a hot week where the pitchers are not ready. That is a man who is absolutely mashing baseballs with the kind of violence that reminds you why people were comparing him to a young David Ortiz when he first came up. His first hit of the spring was a double off Brian Bello of the Boston Red Sox, a 104.8 miles per hour rocket off the bat that traveled 398 feet and would have been a home run in 23 out of 30 major league ballparks. Read that sentence one more time. That hit traveled 398 feet, and in most stadiums in baseball, it clears the fence. He also homered off a changeup at 97.7 miles per hour exit velocity, and the ball launched at a 29-degree angle and cleared the fence comfortably. This is not spring training fool's gold. This is a man rediscovering something that was never supposed to be gone. Blue Jays hitting coach David Popkins, widely regarded as one of the best in the business, looked at Eloy Jimenez and said the same thing he always says when he gets his hands on a big, powerful hitter: I know your strengths. Your strength is that you hit the ball damn hard. Go do that. And that is exactly what Jimenez has done. No overthinking. No mechanical overhauls. Just go be who you were born to be. And the results have been extraordinary. Now here is where it gets complicated, and this is the conversation that is heating up inside the Blue Jays organization right now. Should Eloy Jimenez be on the opening day roster? This is not a simple question, and it has layers that go beyond just his spring training performance. Let's break it down honestly. On the one hand, John Schneider himself has called this a meritocracy. He said it for the pitching staff and he said it for the position players. If you are one of the best 26 guys, you deserve to be on this team. And right now, based purely on what is happening on the field in Dunedin, Eloy Jimenez is making a case. He is pop. He has barrel contact. He has the kind of upside that this Toronto offense has been missing because let's be real. Last year, for all the success this team had in making a World Series run, power was a genuine weakness in the lineup. Having a player who can change the game with one swing of the bat, particularly against left-handed pitching where he has historically been very dangerous, adds a dimension that this team could genuinely use. But here is the other side of that coin, and it is a real consideration. The Blue Jays have players like David Schneider and Nathan Lucas who were already on this roster. These are guys who were part of a World Series run. Burning one of their options to accommodate a non-roster invitee who is having a good spring, even a very good spring, is not a trivial decision. Schneider does have 2 options remaining, which gives the organization a bit of flexibility there. But if Jimenez comes up and struggles in a limited platoon role where he is only seeing left-handed pitchers and not getting everyday at-bats, and the Blue Jays then need to send him back down, they would have to outright release him rather than option him. He does not have opt-out protections in his deal. That creates a very real roster management dilemma. The most likely scenario, according to Sportsnet insider Arden Zwelling, is that Jimenez heads to AAA Buffalo to start the year. And here is the thing, Jimenez himself has said he is fine with that. He told people he would go to AAA if that was the call, and there is wisdom in that approach. Going to Buffalo, getting everyday at-bats, continuing to build on what he has been doing in spring training, and keeping himself sharp and available for when the Blue Jays need him, whether that is because of an injury, an underperformance situation with another outfielder, or just an opportunity arising in the lineup, that might actually be the smarter play for everyone involved. But, and this is a big but, the conversation changes dramatically depending on what happens over the next 2 to 3 weeks. There are still roughly 10 to 15 spring training games left to play. If Eloy Jimenez keeps hitting baseballs at 100 miles per hour, keeps putting up that .900 plus OPS, and we get to the end of camp and he has one of the best spring training lines on the entire roster, while David Schneider continues to struggle at just 1 for 19 at the plate. Then the argument for Jimenez making the opening day roster gets genuinely close. At that point you are not talking about spring training hype. You are talking about sustained, high-quality performance over a meaningful sample size. And John Schneider has been clear that this is a meritocracy. Those words have consequences. The role they envision for him if he does make the team is pretty straightforward. You are not dropping him into the lineup every single day. The Blue Jays run a tight, well-constructed defensive unit. They were the #1 team in defensive run saves last year, and Eloy Jimenez is not going to be winning any Gold Gloves. His career defensive numbers are rough, sitting at -22 defensive runs value and -18 outs above average. So you are not playing him for his glove. You are playing him for the havoc his bat creates. The most natural fit is a platoon role where he starts primarily against left-handed starters, slots into left field in those situations, and lets Jesus Sanchez handle the right-handed matchups. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. gets a day off at first base occasionally, someone slides around, and Jimenez collects quality at-bats in favorable situations. It is not a complicated deployment when you think about it cleanly. The Blue Jays have the roster construction to make it work. The question is purely whether the spring performance is real or whether it fades as the competition level increases. Here is what makes this story truly resonate beyond just the baseball analysis though. This is a man who almost quit. Think about that. Eloy Jimenez was once the most hyped outfield prospect in baseball. He signed a contract worth potentially $75 million before he was 23. He hit 31 home runs as a rookie and looked like the kind of player who comes along once every decade. And then life happened. Injuries happened. Year after year after year of fighting his body, fighting doubt, fighting the creeping suspicion that maybe the best version of himself was gone forever. He bounced from the White Sox to the Orioles to the Rays to the Blue Jays AAA system, and at some point during all of that wandering, he sat with the thought of walking away from the game completely. He did not walk away. He went back to the Dominican Republic and got back to work. He showed up to the Blue Jays spring training camp in the best physical shape he has been in years, looking healthy, looking strong, looking like a man who has made peace with his past and decided to go after his future. And then he went out and started absolutely tattooing baseballs. Manager John Schneider looked at his swing and said it reminded him of the early White Sox days. The hitting coach gave him one piece of guidance and let him rip. And the results have been the kind of thing that makes people pay attention, makes the conversations get louder, and makes a city that is already buzzing with World Series expectations start to wonder if there might be an unexpected weapon hiding in plain sight. There is still a long road to travel. Spring training numbers, as everyone knows, need to be viewed with appropriate caution. Veterans have great springs all the time. The Blue Jays have seen Greg Bird, Joe Panik, and Joey Votto all post impressive camp numbers that did not fully translate to the regular season. The competition ramps up when opening day arrives, the pitchers are fully stretched out, the stakes are real, and that is when you find out what a player is truly made of in the current moment. But what separates Eloy Jimenez from those cautionary tales is the quality of contact. Exit velocities do not lie. A 104.8 miles per hour double that travels 398 feet off a big league starter is not a product of pitchers going easy in February. That is a big, strong, healthy man doing what big, strong, healthy men do when they are locked in. The Blue Jays are betting that this version of Eloy Jimenez, the healthy one, the focused one, the one who stared at the possibility of retirement and chose to fight, might finally be ready to deliver on everything that was promised back in 2019. Whether he starts the year in Buffalo or walks out of the Rogers Center tunnel on opening day, the story of Eloy Jimenez in 2026 is already one of the most compelling narratives in Blue Jays baseball. And it is only just beginning.